TikTok ban for thee, not for me? That's the subject of independent journalist Ken Klippenstein's recent Substack. The Supreme Court decided this morning to uphold the ban on the app, which goes into effect on Sunday. Klippenstein obtained State Department documents that revealed the Biden administration, quote, carved out a loophole for itself so the TikTok ban won't apply to certain government staff, according to a document signed by Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Even though the ByteDance app TikTok is said to be banished, in his piece he highlights the irony behind the U.S. government's move. Select State Department employees will be allowed to remain on the Chinese-owned platform for public diplomacy purposes, or, as the secretive document puts it, promoting U.S. interests abroad.
In Klippenstein's words, quote, while the Biden administration is trying to ban Chinese-owned TikTok over concerns about foreign influence operations, the White House is quietly working to use TikTok for its own foreign influence activities. Joining us now to discuss the bombshell revelation is Ken himself. Welcome, Ken.
Hey guys, good to be back.
Absolutely, good to have you. So just expand on what we said there in the introduction. It appears to be a pretty clear example of double standards, or of one rule for the general mass of the population and another rule for government employees. But talk us through it.
Yeah, this is really a case of restrictions for thee, but not for me. In this case, public diplomacy officials, that's the State Department's word, their polite word for propaganda aimed at foreign audiences. State Department officials engaged in that enjoy a carve-out under this policy, which, by the way, they didn't announce publicly. They did internally, and you can guess why that was, because it flies in the face of the case they're making about TikTok, that it's, just such an informational threat to the public that, they can't be trusted to handle it. On the other hand, we, the federal government, some of us at least, can be. And so if you look at the document, it's really revealing. It says that, look, guys, there's a huge opportunity cost associated with dropping this platform. We are not going to be able to message to foreign audiences whatever it is we want to tell them to advance U.S. Geopolitical interests if we don't use it. So you guys have to let us use it. And I don't think that's necessarily an unreasonable argument, but that's also an argument that can be made for the millions of people that use the platform to put forth whatever their creative thoughts are, or political thoughts, or whatever it may be. And so then the question is, why is the danger not serious enough that you have to worry about people working for the government being affected by it, but not the general public?
How does this square as well with the fact that in 2023, the White House ordered federal employees to wipe TikTok from their phones? Did State Department employees enjoy a similar carve-out with that sort of internal ban?
Yep, exactly. And what you just mentioned is one of several contradictions at the heart of all of this. Another one being that both President Biden and Vice President Harris in their election campaigns used TikTok extensively to message to the public. And I can understand why they would want to do that, because there's a heck of a lot of people on there that you're not going to be able to reach on other platforms. The heart of the argument about whether, as the Supreme Court just decided against, about whether this de facto ban affects the First Amendment protected speech of Americans, sort of hinges on this question of whether they're going to be able to express those same thoughts on other platforms. And that's what's so interesting about these documents, is it suggests that the answer to that question is no, because these platforms are so important and so unique that you can't just post the same, in this case, State Department propaganda, to put it candidly, on Instagram or on Facebook or on YouTube. This is the federal government saying that internally, we don't want to deal with these inferior platforms that are not going to have the same audiences and not going to have the same mechanisms of storytelling that TikTok will, not have the same algorithm and so forth. So internally, they recognize that there's a significant difference between these things, and there's just certain things you can do on TikTok that you can't do elsewhere. And I wish that would have had some ramifications with regard to the case before SCOTUS. And they had considered, why is the federal government doing this if there's no difference between these platforms? Because that's kind of the big argument is, oh, well, you can just put this stuff on YouTube, or you can just put it on, whatever it is. What's the big difference? Well, it turns out the government knows there's a difference and they care about it.
And Ken, just a few minutes before we started this conversation, the White House released a statement in regards to that SCOTUS decision. essentially punting the issue to Donald Trump, saying, given the sheer fact of timing, this administration recognizes that actions to implement the law simply must fall to the next administration, which takes office on Monday. Now, Donald Trump has expressed some willingness to perhaps delay the ban of TikTok, and some allies of his have floated the idea of actually buying the app from ByteDance themselves. How likely do you think it is that this ban actually does go into effect in the immediate future, or do you expect that Trump might make steps to either delay or overturn the law?
Well, this could also go to the Supreme Court because it was a law that was passed by the Congress, and the question is, can via executive fiat the president override that? I don't know the answer to that question. I think it is a complicated issue. But what's interesting about all this is that when the law was passed, and as we see the Biden administration and Democrats in Congress, like Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, scramble to try to hold off implementation of the law they passed and signed into law. I think all this shows how disingenuous they were when they told the public, oh, don't worry, this isn't a ban. They said this repeatedly. This is not a ban. All it's doing is making it so that someone has to buy it, and someone will buy it. It turns out no one has bought it yet. So, there's debate about why. Some people think that it's because TikTok won't accept offers. I tend to think that if that was the case, whoever offered that TikTok didn't respond to would have went public with it in order to try to pressure them to accept the deal. But whatever the case is, Congress was disingenuous when they told everyone, oh, don't worry about it, nothing's going to happen because someone will buy it. Clearly, that hasn't happened. So I think they have egg on their face, and that's why they're, falling all over themselves trying to make it so that this thing doesn't get shut down, because it's not just entertainment. People might know this app is something that you watch funny videos on, but there are, huge numbers of small businesses and people that rely on this platform to be able to sell things upon which they depend on for their income and their livelihood. And all of that is something that Congress and the Biden White House should have anticipated would happen. Instead, they told the public what seems to have been a lie, which was, don't worry, someone will buy it, it'll be fine.
And in relation to that, Ken, it seems like you view this, not just as a sort of an unwelcome and unjustified suppression of free speech or of people's free choice, but also as a political mistake on the part of those who advocated for the ban, right? You think they've got the politics wrong as well as the ethics?
Yeah, I've reported on this extensively, and what I found was the national security concerns were entirely hypothetical. If you look at the testimony before Congress on the part of the CIA director, the director of national intelligence, the FBI director, all of them talk about things that could happen, but they don't have anything to point to about what has happened. And, proponents of the ban might say that I'm being naive. Why wouldn't the Chinese do this at some point? The second point that I would make is, what is the evidence for that disinformation campaigns are particularly effective? We can go back to 2016. The Democrats spent years trying to show that Russian disinformation had some kind of determinative effect on the election then. I don't think they ever sustained that case. I think most people don't see that they did. And the same is here. How is this so important? Is this such an existential threat to the information space in the United States that we are willing to throw out not just all the people that depend on this for their livelihood, but our speech rights? And I think the answer to that question should be no, yeah.
Ken Klippenstein, thanks for joining us once again on Rising. Always a pleasure to hear from you, and certainly an important topic.
Thank you for having me, guys.